Another beautiful day in the African bush, and I'm so glad to be your guide for the next 2 hours for Live at the Waterhole. And welcome aboard, everyone. We're starting off here at Africam's Kruger Shalati, and we have some very sleepy hippos, very cute hippos, and they're all lined up for us. I think that they are epitomizing Live at the Waterhole today. I'm feeling really relaxed. It's a Monday, it's the beginning of the week. Usually there's so many things to be done, but the hippos are reminding us that we can also give ourselves a little time to chill. It's me, Trishala. I'll be taking any of your questions and your comments over the next 2 hours. Remember that we are, of course, live and interactive, so you can head over to our website and register to send questions and comments. You can also scan the QR code on your screen now. If you want to, you can keep up with the conversation on Twitter using that hashtag WildEarth. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, then use @FC in the YouTube chat stream. And all those questions and comments will come through. Oh, they look so peaceful. Now, as I've said to you before, Live at the Waterhole, at least for me, is about a different perspective. Here at Wild Earth, during our safaris, it's very much go, 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 and it's so exciting, and I do love it. And Live at the Waterhole has a much slower pace. It's about really giving yourself the space and time to just absorb into nature and make the best of whatever comes our way. Now, as you know, we have different cameras positioned across Africa, mostly here in Southern Africa, but we've also got Oldonyo up in East Africa and Kenya around Chiulu Hills. A very beautiful spot and possibly one of my favorite cameras. But to start us off, we're going to enjoy the peace of these three hippos, because once we head up to the other cameras, especially the Eldonio one, things get very exciting and very energetic. I've already got some hellos coming through from all of you. Velma, you say, so good to be with you. Trish, you're starting your week right. Oh, doesn't it feel good when we start our week right? And I couldn't think of a better way or a more right way of starting our week than giving yourself a little time to spend in Africa. Joanne Mello, you say good Monday, Wild Earth, and Trish, a good Monday to you too. And you say that the sleeping hippos are so awesome. They really are. So little movement. Now, even though it is still warm in these areas, and we are in winter, but winter in the majority of the spaces that we'll be showing you today basically means dry season. Yes, there is a reduction in temperature as well. It gets chilly pretty early in the afternoon, by about 4. It gets chilly, and in the morning, oh my goodness, it's very cold. But it heats up in the middle of the day. But as you know, winter sunlight is just not as harsh. And it's just wonderful to have a nap in a little bit of winter sunlight. I myself am guilty of this. In fact, I look very much like this hippo. There's one window in my house where the winter sunlight comes in and it just warms this patch. And I look very much like this hippo. I just lie in it and oftentimes fall asleep in it, and it just feels like freedom, to be able to just fall asleep on the ground in a patch of sunlight. Gavin Bullchand, you say you love this. It is nice. And Catherine, you say, oh, that looks so comfortable. It really does. I can feel my eyes getting smaller as we're watching these hippos. But I can't sleep. The patch of sunlight's not coming in right now. But I also agree. Velma, you said you're starting your week right. I think that this is the way to start our week right. And hey, if you can manage to get a nap in on a Monday, Do it, everyone. Use these hippos as inspiration. These, you say, hooray, they're still there. Greetings to all of us. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mercedes, I don't think they look like they're going anywhere. They look so comfortable. Jago and Dolly, you would like to know, well, how do these guys not get sunburnt? Well, that's what kind of what I was getting at earlier. Now, if this was the middle of summer, and the thing with summer is that the sunlight can be really harsh, but you're also getting quite a bit of cloud cover because that's the rainy season in the majority of the areas where our cameras are. But on a clear summer's day without cloud cover, you are going to get burnt so quickly. So you're not going to see hippos doing this. But with the winter sun, it's a little softer, it's a little lighter, the air is cooler. So that's really helping the comfort level. Now, apart from this, if the hippos are starting to really get sunburnt, they can do one of two things. One is a behavioral change. They can just move into the water. And at Kruger Shalati, there's plenty of water for them to move into. It's not just a tiny pan. Or the second thing is a physiological change that can happen. They can start to exude a protective liquid. Two types of acids that hippos produce from the pores in their skin that acts one as kind of like a sunscreen, and two also has antimicrobial properties. Now, at the moment, none of the hippos look like they're exuding those acids. So I would say they're really comfortable, and if they weren't, they have options. But they are acutely aware of their skin condition. They have sensitive skin, it can easily dry out. And the moment they start to feel that, one of those two things are going to happen. Either they'll start producing that hyposodoric and non-hyposodoric acid, or they're going to move into the water. So Quinn, you would like to know, is it true that hippos leak a pink liquid from their glands? So that pink liquid, that's the acids I'm talking about. It's called hyposodoric acid and non-hyposodoric acid, and they have a pinky tinge to them. And they are exuded out of tiny glands that are near the pores in the skin of the hippo. So you'll see them as tiny dots kind of throughout the entire body of a hippo, or at least on the outer sides. I've never seen those dots on the underside of the hippo, but they could exude it from there too. And those are pinky. But that's quite a it's the type of physiological reaction that is a little expensive, and so it's usually reserved for extreme situations. But it is in fact quite pinky. And it's also where that myth that hippos have pink milk when they're lactating, it's also where it comes from, because potentially that those acids that are pinky with glands all over the body could leak into their or the nipple area as well. So it's not actually the milk that's pink, but the things going on around it that could contaminate it but affect color, like a dye almost. Now, I was gonna say before we started, I was thinking, oh, we'll start off here. It'll be super chilled. We'll just absorb into this whole scene. But then we were having such nice discussions. So how about we take a few moments now? Are any of you still awake? I almost fell asleep here. The sounds are magnificent. And it really allows you to be pulled in to the experience of wildlife. Jeff, you're also loving these sounds. And Lenny, you also appreciate the quiet. It's so important to give people the opportunity to truly experience what it's like in the wild. And if I think about when I'm in a wild space, but I'm not presenting or guiding, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm there quietly, and those are the best moments. And that is a true representation of what it's like in the wild. There's nobody talking, there's no sounds of vehicles. They go out at a specific time, and then, other than that, other parts of the day, it's just the sound of nature. And I think it's important to give you all that as well. Catherine, you say you're about to fall asleep. Catherine, I almost fell asleep. I had to have a sip of water to remind me, oh, you're working, Trishala, you can't sleep. As much as a nap would be amazing right now, but the sunlight hasn't peeked through the window yet. Holly, you'd like to know, do hippos ever conflict with other water creatures like crocodiles? Absolutely. In general, crocodiles and hippos try to avoid each other. It's almost like this unspoken rule, kind of a respect, if you want to put it in human terms, but they just try to avoid each other, prefer not to have conflict. Both hippos and crocodiles can be really dangerous. So, an interaction between them is going to result in serious injury. So, before either one tries to incite any kind of violence at all, they're going to consider it quite carefully. A hippo's jaw can produce the kind of force that's about 1,800 psi, which is really, really significant. It can snap pretty much anything in half. Whereas a crocodile is more around, it's debatable. Nile crocodile, I've seen it from 2,000 to 3,000 psi. I've even seen it written down as 5,000 psi, but I find that hard to believe. That may be saltwater crocodile, more likely. But either way, the point is that both those species, hippos and crocodiles, can cause significant damage to each other. And the best way to deal with that is to avoid each other. Neither one is a particular threat to the other. They are not in competition except for space, in terms of the fact that they're both aquatic species, but or semi-aquatic, I should say. But apart from that, they don't really need to bother each other. So instead of being aggressive towards each other, they rather avoid each other. But there are times when avoiding each other is unavoidable, in which case you get really a spectacle of aggression, lots of open mouths, lots of splashing, and more often than not, it's the hippo that starts it. The crocodile, I mean, if the hippo is starting with a crocodile, of course the crocodile is going to defend itself. But if the crocodile sees a hippo beelining for it, it tends to slink away. The problem comes in when a crocodile has some prey in its mouth, and it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with the hippo. But if the crocodile is thrashing about too much, maybe causing too much of a splash in the hippo's territory, and a hippo beelines for it, but it at the same time doesn't want to let go of its prey, that's when you'll get all that splashing and that interaction that can be, or at least to us, look very aggressive. Oh, they look so, so, so comfortable. I think we can have a nice view of what's going on around them in a moment. Oh, as the one that's very close to us pushes, you can see that pink underbelly. Oh, and look at this wonderful spot. Doesn't that just look like a hippo's paradise? That is just fantastic. Now, talking about hippos and crocodiles and conflict, and we were having that discussion earlier. Catherine, you say you think it highly depends on the size of the crocodile. Absolutely. But that being said, I've seen uh, some pretty excitable, brave small crocs. But you are absolutely right. It depends on the size of the crocodile. But there's definitely an unspoken, or perhaps it is spoken, who knows? There's definitely a rule of avoidance, or at least a preference for avoidance. Sanjeev Roy, you say the other day you saw a video where a tiny hippo calf was lying by the side of huge crocs on the river on the bank of a river, and later the crocs decided to move away. You know, that's another thing that you get to know quite well when you're out in the bush. Just because something could potentially have a predatory or predator prey relationship or could potentially be a threat, that's not always acted on. I've seen lions walk past antelope and not even look at them. If that's not what they are intending to do at the time, hunt, they'll sometimes just walk right past. And other times, you can see lions feeding on something and then just taking the opportunity to kill something else that happens to come past, even though they're already eating. So, in so many ways, the wilderness can be really predictable, in other ways, totally unpredictable. And that's what I like about it. We're always learning new things and always getting surprised and kept on our feet. Okay, I think we need to wake up. What do you say, everyone? I definitely don't have a coffee around, so the next best thing is gonna have to do. Let's head over to Oldonyo in Kenya. There's always action at that waterhole. Oh yes, and this is the perfect time to be quiet and to just listen. But there's a couple things I'm gonna point out to you before we stay nice and quiet. One is going to be the movements of the zebras. Sometimes they get really energetic around the waterhole and, in a way, I suppose, a little bit silly. They kick up a lot. The other thing is the giraffe with all those oxpeckers on it. More are going to land, and then sometimes they shake them off, and it's really a spectacle to witness. And I hope we'll be able to see it. And then finally, the elephant bull that's having a nice drink. It's always a good idea to pay attention to his movements and also the sounds that he makes, especially as he sucks up water from that pipe. Anyway, I'm going to give you a few moments of peace here at Oldonyo. Wasn't that a joy? Oh, this is just stunning. What did you notice as you were watching and listening? I was definitely taking in the area above the eyes and that bull on the left that's very sunken in. I think he's quite an old bull. You can see all the little crevices on his face. I was also noticing that how where his tusks attached to his face, there's kind of a band of white, almost an area that doesn't get very dirty. It's very close to the skin. Now I wonder if that's because that skin around the tusk, at the base of the tusk, it's a little flappy. It's not tight around the tusk. So I wonder if the skin has been getting a little looser as he's gotten older. I love thinking about all these things. Olivia, you have noticed the toenails. Yes. Having a look at the elephant toenails is always nice too. I like looking at the cushioning around the feet as well. Catherine, you say those Ellies are always, or the Ellies that we see here, always have dirty tusks. Is there no place for them to swim? Now, I haven't been to this specific area, so I'm not sure what water availability is like for the elephants. But, oh, someone was just letting go of some flatulence there. Nothing unusual. But maybe not. Maybe there aren't areas for them to actually have a great old swim. That will also explain why they flock to this waterhole. So maybe there aren't many other water sources around the area. But they do, I mean, now that you mention it, they do often have really dirty tusks. But it might also have to do with their behavior, whether they do more digging. Maybe also they have larger tusks in general, at least from what we've seen, compared to those elephant bulls that we see here in southern Africa. So maybe it's just a matter of bigger tusks taking more resource in terms of cleaning, so it's a bit more difficult to clean. But I guess we'd have to go there and see for ourselves. Next month, I am going to an area close by here, but unfortunately, I won't be able to get actually into Old Donyo. But I'll let you know if I see any significant drainage lines or water holes that they could potentially go to, or more reasonably, be able to just tell what the water situation is like. And just by the landscape, you can often tell if there are big dams or anything like that, looking at drainage lines. just thinking about this area. So, Chulu Hills, I just had to be quiet because the elephant was making some nice sounds. So, Chulu Hills is very close to Amboseli and Tsavo national parks. And I mean, I know in Amboseli there's Lake Amboseli, so they could definitely have a swim there. But I'm not sure about the fence situation in this area. So, could they even have access? I'm not sure. But also, I suppose, Catherine, being the dry season, there's generally not going to be a ton of water around anyway. So maybe we should wait and reserve our discussion for the wet season and see if their tusks look any cleaner then. Now, Gullivan, I was waiting for that wonderful interaction to end before we got to your question, because your question was really important. You wanted to know, is there a reason that the second elephant, this one on the right here, was keeping its distance from the elephant on the left at first? 100%, there must have been a reason. And in my opinion, that reason is the elephant on the left looks like a very mature bull. You can see he's quite old. He's a little bigger than the one on the right, not in terms of height, but in terms of girth. Look how thick that bull on the left is. The one on the right is tall, but he is significantly younger than the one on the left. So the one on the left is more dominant in this area. So he's come through, he wanted to get to know this elephant. Maybe he already knows him, but he's still keeping his distance because he knows that he is submissive to that individual. And then eventually he slowly made his way round to the side of the waterhole so that he could be with this larger, mature bull. And then that interaction we saw where the younger bull on the right was drinking. Oh, there comes another. And then the bull on the left, the big mature bull, he put his trunk right into the mouth of that younger bull. And that is a greeting that we actually don't get to see very often, but it's a common greeting amongst elephants. They'll put their trunks right into the mouth of another elephant. And in a way, I thought that was a very warm interaction, a very welcoming one. And I suppose everything was going great until another elephant came and joined them. This elephant on the right also looks older than that tall but slightly skinny elephant that's now walking away. So he's trying to figure out how to best play this social game. And there's another elephant coming through too. Tracy, you say, and then they were three, and now they are four. Very, very nice. Calvin, you say, El Doño is the gift that keeps on giving. It really is. Absolutely magnificent waterhole. Oh, thank you for this information, Catherine. You say that they were able to move to Amboseli in the past, but you're not sure about the fence situation now. I'm sure I'll be able to find out next month. Now, given that the elephant on the left, the big one, the big bull that has that nice, beautiful hourglass shape on his face, given that we have three others besides him here now, I think this will be a really interesting time to just observe the way that they interact with each other, those three on the right, and then how they move or how they try to approach the big bull on the left. And why not just throw some zebras in the mix too for some spice? The elephants really do take over the waterhole. And we have the one tusk that's come in. This is not the one tusk elephant that usually hangs out with one ton. One ton's companion, one tusk, has quite a long tusk. The one that's still there, obviously, is quite long. This one, the other one, is fairly short and also looks like it's been broken. Now, you would also be able to hear that there's people in this hide that's just behind where this camera is positioned. So that's also playing a role with how tentative these elephants are being. They're not worried about the people or anything like that. They're very comfortable, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to pay attention and don't want to listen and aren't having discussions about what's happening around them. Maybe they're saying how irritating it is that the people are talking. You never know, but they all look pretty comfortable. Now, the two at the back there, we're having a little bit of a tussle. Oh, even the two on the right here. Okay, I'm going to be quiet again because the sound of those tusks hitting each other is unmistakable. So, a couple really interesting things were happening, and a couple really funny things were happening. I wonder if, I mean, you would have seen the elephant on the right relieving himself quite thoroughly right in front of this hide, and I heard someone say, "Oh my gosh." It's always funny to hear people react to those kinds of things. And then also there's an awkward giraffe or two standing at the distance of the or standing at a distance from the waterhole waiting for their turn patiently. And I'm glad to see that one of the floppy-eared elephants, one of the floppy-eared bulls, have come down to the waterhole too. There's two floppy-eared bulls that we see pretty often in this area, possibly more. I haven't seen any other identifying features that could make me say with 100% accuracy or even be that sure that there's only two. Killian, hi, thank you for joining us. You wanted to know, do elephants' tusks chip as they get older? The likelihood of tusks being chipped does increase as they get older, just like our teeth. As we get older, we generally, well, we're aging, so that means our body is not as good at repair anymore. Things start to weaken, and also because certain things like our teeth don't undergo any kind of repair. So that means that they are taking wear and tear through our lifetime, and they weaken as we get older. So we are more susceptible to getting chips in our teeth, and the same applies for elephants. So as they get older, they've been using their tusks for a lot longer, there's a lot more wear and tear, and all of that adds to the fact that they're going to be able to chip their tusks a lot more easily than they would when they were younger. Now, even though their teeth go through a rotation, they go through 6 sets of teeth, but their tusks don't go through a rotation. When they're very, very young, when they're born, actually, they have what's known as tushes, just tiny, tiny tusk-like, I suppose, teeth. Well, they are modified incisors, but they're tusk-like tushes, and we don't see them. You can't see them. They're under the skin. And those get replaced by the tusks as they grow. So a 2-3-year-old elephant whose tusks are just popping out, those are its proper tusks, not its tushes. So by the age of 5 or 6, their tusks have only really gone through about 3 years of wear. But by the time they're 30, that's about 28, 27 years worth of wear and tear on those tusks. So they do become a little more susceptible to breakage. But just like us, when we are young and we're playing sport and someone throws a ball in your face, you still might chip a tooth, right? So we can't really say that there's a correlation between aging and tusks chipping. It has a lot to do with the situation, if there has been any tusk damage in the past, even condition, if it's been a resource poor year, and that meant that the elephant has to use its tusks more to push down trees, to debark trees, all those things come into play. But generally, just because the tusks go through more wear and tear the older you get, they are susceptible to chipping. Mercedes, you say that the one on the left, the one tusk elephant, it's one tusk too. Oh, aren't we so creative with these names? It's not one original one tusk. or the one that we named One Tusk, that hangs around with one ton, but it's one tusk too. I like that. Now, Elephant Man, that is a really interesting question for which there is no definitive answer. And hello to you too, and thank you for sending through a question. You'd like to know, you say you've always wanted to know why elephants sometimes lift their front foot slightly above the floor and then move it back and forth. It's something that we see so often. And like you're asking, it is a type of body language, but we are not 100% sure what it means. But the theory that seems to work best is that it may help them to figure out the position of sound coming through. So this theory has to do with triangulation, and because elephants communicate infrasonically, so the majority of elephant communication, the infrasonic communication that is, happens something between um, 13 and 23 hertz. So to put that into perspective, our hearing, we can hear from about 20 to 20,000 hertz. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, the difference between what we can hear and what is infrasonic, but it does make a huge difference because we absolutely cannot hear the majority of the sounds that elephants are making. Now, if you have these long wavelength, low frequency sound waves moving through the environment, it can be a little difficult to figure out what direction it's coming from. And so, if they lift up one leg, it gives them the ability to triangulate the sound waves. Is it coming from the left, from the right, from the back? So, that's one theory. And it is associated with the ability to hear and figure out what direction the sound is coming from. But that doesn't mean that it's not an indication of something else. Maybe visually it is involved as well. Now, a lot of things that, whether it's behavior, whether it's anatomy, or at least like superficial anatomy, the color of things, the size of things, not everything, and generally, actually, most things don't have one use. They can mean multiple things. So while that lifting of the leg may have helped to figure out which direction sound comes from, that lifting of the leg might also indicate to other elephants that, hey, this guy is listening to something and he can't talk right now. So there's this knock on effect. And so it becomes a part of social body language. It becomes something that's really useful for an individual to just mechanically hear something. So those are the theories. Now the other theory, in fact, is, and it's maybe not really a theory. It's not something that's been studied specifically, but it's something that we as guides see a lot. Is when an elephant is trying to, almost like trying to decide which way to go, how to take down this tree, how to get to these fruits. You see that picking up of the leg as well. So it almost looks like it's trying to decide something. So I guess, Elephant Man, the short answer is we don't know, but we love to try and figure it out. That's a really interesting thought, Gina. I like this thought. You say you wonder if you put elephants in water, whether they'd be able to communicate with things like whales. I would say no. I think that elephants would be able to hear that there's a sound in the water because whales can also communicate at very low frequencies, again, infrasonically, around 10 to 20 hertz. Very, very low frequencies. For the same reason, low frequency sound travels further. And in the vastness of the ocean, you really need your calls to travel far. But whales can also communicate in really high frequencies. But just like us, I can communicate in my normal human frequency, 20 to 20,000 hertz. Um, but I'm speaking English. And I'm one of these, I suppose, unfortunate souls in the world that can only speak one language, and that one language is English, although I've been trying my hand at other languages. But if I were going to try and communicate with somebody who's speaking Swedish, even though we're communicating at the same frequency, or we're emitting sound at the same frequency, doesn't mean we're communicating because we can't understand each other. So I think they would be able to hear, but I don't know that they'd be, well, I don't think they'd be able to tell what is being said. Now, my slight hesitation there was because the very ancient ancestors of elephants, or elephants once shared an ancestor with those marine mammals. So maybe there's a hint of some leftover bit of understanding. Who knows? And if there's one thing that science and working in the field and wildlife has taught me, is that it's very difficult to ever use the words always or never. And I kind of like it that way. Oh, hi, leopard lover. You had a question. Sorry, it got lost amongst all the elephant questions. I know it's not really one that, um, is in regards to what we're seeing right here, but it's an interesting one nonetheless. And you really wanted it answered. You wanted to know if the snow leopard is a species of Panthera or a subspecies, or is it just a leopard? And you say that, it changed recently, and did it change back? So, as far as I know, snow leopards are their own species. But I know that recently, snow leopards have been, um, or recent research has shown that snow leopards actually have three subspecies. Now, I don't know the specifics about the subspecies. I know there was a western one, there might have been a northern subspecies, but the recent discovery was as a result of a whole lot of genetic testing that went in, which is the best way to tell if a species is a new species, a subspecies. It can be very conclusive and can also show us changes that are not apparent to our eyes, changes in their genetics. So snow leopards are still Panthera, Panthera uncia. I don't think that has changed. I haven't come across anything to say that that's changed, but I do know that the recent discovery has shown that within Panthera uncia, there are three subspecies. But that doesn't affect um, its taxonomy in any way except to divide the snow leopard as a specific species into three subspecies. But its relationship to other leopards or other species in the genus Panthera has not changed. I hope that answers your question, leopard lover. So I'm just going through your question again to make sure. So yes, it is still a species of Panthera. No, so remember that Panthera is a genus. And within Panthera, you're going to get the African leopard, or I should just say um, leopard, because there's African leopard is a subspecies of leopard. Maybe that's where the confusion comes in. So Panthera as a genus only has 5 living distinct species. But these 5 living distinct species have subspecies. So those 5 species are jaguar, leopard, lion, tiger, and snow leopard. All of them are in the genus Panthera. But leopard has subspecies, Asian leopard, African leopard, um, and snow leopard also has subspecies. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they're all Panthera and they're all related via this genus. And when subspecies are discovered from one of these species, it doesn't really take away the essence of the fact that the species is related to the others in the genus Panthera. I hope that helps, leopard lover, and I hope I didn't make it more complicated. But I wonder if maybe you were um, unsure about whether the snow leopard was a subspecies of a leopard, which it is not. A snow leopard is one species, and then leopard is another species. And leopard on its own has several subspecies, and snow leopard on its own, now we know, has 3 subspecies. Catherine, talking about these elephants again, you say that you think that even though we can't hear low frequency communication, we can definitely feel it. And that's what gives people the relaxed feeling around them. 100% we can feel low frequency sound. We do all the time, especially if you're going to a concert or you're listening to loud music or you happen to have a subwoofer in your car or in your house. You're listening to that low frequency sound all the time. It's bass. So we can, or I shouldn't say listening to it, you're feeling it. And you can definitely feel it. However, whether that promotes a relaxed feeling, I'm unsure about that. There are definitely times when I have felt relaxed, feeling those low frequency, almost like you feel the air move. But there have been other times when I've felt that air move almost like thunder in the air, and it has not been a relaxed feeling. So I think it depends very much on what's being communicated and also the situation. While we all hope that Wonton will show his face here at the waterhole, and we had a wonderful time just listening to all the sounds here and having some really nice discussions. I always appreciate your questions and your comments, and it just the discussions that we can have and the back and forth. I really, really love it and appreciate it. It also keeps my brain going. But anyway, I digress. What I was going to say was let's head across to Tao because there's an ostrich having a drink. Oh, hello, cutie. Oh, this is so sweet. I love it when they have a drink because they can't suck up water like we can. So they've just got to like skim the surface and move that noodle like neck to get a bit of distance and shovel the water into their mouths. Oh, isn't it lovely? Lola, you are right. We don't get to see ostrich often. So it's really nice when we do. And it's not running away or in the distance. It's right here having a good old drink. Now, I would love to stick around with this ostrich, but there's a rhino at Founder's Lodge, and you know how quickly they can move away from the waterhole. So let's have a quick look, and we'll come right back afterwards. Oh, I love the colors here. The redness of the soil, and when it comes to these large herbivores, rhinos, elephants, they almost carry the land on them. They're constantly in the sand, and they carry the color of the sand on them as they move. And you can almost see the redness from this iron oxide rich soils, even on the back of this rhino. And that contrast against the blue sky, absolutely phenomenal. Oh, so much is happening. We've just moved across to Simbavati waterside now because there's a cheetah. Oh my goodness. From an ostrich to quickly over to Founders so we can look at the rhino and now to the cheetah here at Simbavati waterside. Now, if you're unsure, Simbavati waterside is in the Timbavati. Really nice area. But as you know, with cheetah, it's not often that you get to see them. Hopefully, the Zumi can catch up with this cheetah. But it's not often that you get to see them because they have an obvious preference for open areas. Now, we have pockets of open areas across all the reserves in South Africa. But sometimes that's not enough to keep a stable population of cheetahs. So it's really special to see the cheetah here at Simbavati. Alright, we'll just hang tight here and hope that we'll be able to see the cheetah again. It walked off to the right. So now you have a good view of what Simbavati waterside really looks like. Now this is exactly where I thought the cheetah might end up. But this time of the day, you might see them lying up in a patch of shade. But that was awesome. It was short, but it was brilliant while it lasted. We'll just give it a few more moments. Maybe it'll pop up again. And if not, we can head back over to Founders. Catherine, you say, oh my gosh, that's a first for Live at the Waterhole. Whoop whoop. Wasn't that special? That was really, really special. Some of the controls here at Simbavati Waterside are not very responsive. So the Zoomy did an excellent job of actually finding that cheetah for us. Well done. If you're not sure what a Zoomy is, those are the people that volunteer their precious and wonderful time to move the cameras and constantly look out for stuff. And if it weren't for them, it would be really, really, really hard to keep an eye out on the... I don't know, there must be actually about 20 different cameras on Africam. So great thanks to the Zoomy for giving us the first cheetah on Live at the Waterhole. Now, while the Zoomy continues to search around, I think we can head back over to Oldonyo. Yeah, for now, let's go over to Oldonyo. And the giraffe has finally made its way to the waterhole. Hopefully it'll be able to get a drink. I haven't known this floppy-eared elephant, if it is the same one I'm thinking of, I haven't known him to be particularly aggressive. Towards giraffe, that is. So hopefully they'll be able to share happily. But I guess we're going to find out right now. I think that's fairly successful. And I feel bad for the giraffes when the elephants have monopolized the waterhole and they wait patiently. But it all seems very nice and civil here. Oh, this elephant is being really, I was about to say good, but what is good and bad for an elephant, really? It's just our perception of it. But it's being very still, which means that we might be able to get some really nice close ups of its trunk and its face and its entire body. Okay, well, this elephant promptly pushed out the floppy ear one, going after the same thing, trying to feel around for the pipe. Oh, and some good splashes. I was going to send us over to Kruger Shalati, but let's just see if he splashes around a little more, and then I'll send us over just now. Look at that trunk feeling around for the pipe, knowing that the elephant has come here specifically for that pipe and is feeling around for it. It's not as if it stumbled upon it and then has decided to look for it again. It's come here specifically with the intention. Gone straight looking for it. And have you found it yet? No, still looking? I'm sensing a hint of frustration here at not being able to find the spot where the pipe is and tossing up all the water that it doesn't want to drink. Okay, while this elephant tries to figure out what it wants to do, how about we head over to Kruger Shalati? There's a beautiful croc there. Oh my goodness, and doesn't it make you. Oh, give us a yawn. Aren't you stunning? Oh, there's a little bit of a stretch there too. Oh, this is special. Wow. Wow. That was probably the best view into a crocodile's mouth that I have ever gotten. And we actually got to see a portion of that gula, which is a thin layer of skin just in the back of the throat there. And that's that exact layer of skin that it's using at the moment to cool itself down. Gula is present in reptiles and in birds. As we know, birds and reptiles are closely related. Well, at least uh, in terms of their taxonomy, birds evolved from reptiles, and they both have these gulas. Now, that thin layer of flesh, it's kind of like a yeah, it's fleshy screen type thing, is a really great membrane for being able to cool blood down. So any area in your body where there's where surface area is large, like a thin membranous gula, is really good to be able to cool the blood that moves through it. So you'd be able to do that through evaporative cooling. So as the air, as its mouth is open like this, the air that comes in hits that gula, and then the gula being also in its mouth means it's moist. And so as it evaporates, the moisture is pulling heat out of the gula or out of the body as it evaporates. And that means that as blood is moving through that area, heat is being pulled out of it. So it's an excellent way to cool down. And it's interesting when you think of heat like that. And it's the same way that your sweat works. So as you sweat, moisture is being put onto the surface of your body. And as that sweat evaporates from the environment, it still needs to meet a critical temperature to allow the evaporation to happen. And so as that moisture is being affected by the environmental temperature and is wanting to evaporate, it's pulling heat also from your body. So that cools you down and it gets the water to where it wants to be in a gaseous state. And we came here just at the perfect time as it decided to put on a little bit of a show for us. And for reptiles, that's really important because we know that they're ectothermic, so their body temperature is determined by the environment. They're not able to produce or stabilize their internal temperature in their body. They have to use the environment to do that or use behaviors to do that. And opening their mouth like this and using their gula is a great way to cool themselves down. So the reason I was excited to come over to Kruger Shalati and see this crocodile was because Caden, you asked a question quite early on during live at the waterhole, but I wanted us to be with the crocodile while we answered it. And you wanted to know if there are any prehistoric creatures besides crocodiles that we still see roaming the earth today. Caden, I hope I don't burst a prehistoric bubble. But crocodiles are not prehistoric. Crocodilians are, and that's because crocodiles are related to dinosaurs in the sense that they are both from a group of animals called archosaurs. But the crocodiles that we see today, so for example, this Nile crocodile or saltwater crocodiles, um, they only came into existence as we know them today. This modern species of crocodile is about 11 to 8 million years old. I know that sounds like a lot, but that doesn't make it a living fossil or a dinosaur. But the reason why, especially kind of like in pop science, we see that term being used a lot is because over the, say, 200 million years that crocodilians as a group have existed, their body plan has not changed a lot. So the first crocodilians to have ever existed looked very similar to this Nile crocodile right now. And that has given the impression that no change has happened. But in fact, a ton of change has happened just on a very small and a very genetic level. So they're not changes that we get to see. But a Nile crocodile, a modern Nile crocodile we see today, the one we're looking at right now, first came into existence about 11 to 8 million years ago, which is not not that old. If you think about an impala, for example, the modern impala has came into existence about 6 million years ago. The most interesting part about this is the fact that the body plan has not changed a lot. And that's really important because it means that they have been able to suit the environment regardless of what's happened over the last 10 million years, or in the case of an impala, 6 million years. So that's the first point, I should say. That while the group crocodilians have existed since prehistoric times, a crocodile as we know it today, Nile crocodile, saltwater crocodile, modern day crocodilians are not prehistoric in the sense that you may think. But they are animals that have existed for a long time, but they're not as interesting, I should say. Oh, no, they're all interesting, right? But they're not ones you might think of. For example, horseshoe crabs. Horseshoe crabs have been around, I think, since the Triassic. All right, let's get over to old Donio. There we go. We can still continue our conversation. But Caden, things like horseshoe crabs, the coelacanth, frilled sharks, goblin sharks, they have existed for a long time and persisted. So the version we see today is the version that first existed millions of years ago, and far more than 10 million years ago. I think in this with the coelacanth, or if you think about horseshoe crab, you're going back into the Triassic. Lampreys as well. Lampreys are quite prehistoric. I mean, if you really want to go back, you can look at stromatolites. But there are barely any stromatolites still around. There's still some in Shark Bay in Australia. But those are really, really ancient animals. And those are truly living fossils. Yes, I'm getting lots of comments about how cool that croc was. Wasn't that something? Mindy Tillipau, you'd say, how cool is that? That is crazy cool. And Catherine, you also say, wow, what an awesome view. And Mercedes, you say, giving us quite a show. You've never seen a croc yawn. I mean, I've never seen that view of a croc yawn. Definitely. That was really, really special. Oh, we've spoken quite a bit. So let's take another restful few minutes and just enjoy the sounds. Of course, keep those questions and comments coming. We have 15 minutes left together. But if you want to just sit back and relax and enjoy, go ahead and do that too, because I'm going to give us a couple minutes of just time to listen. I hope you enjoyed that little break. It's always lovely to have cool discussions, but it's also nice to just take a break and listen and watch for a little while. Zebra, you say you love giraffes and zebra, and you also said that you would love to be here now. Nothing to disturb you, just the quietness of nature. It can be loud and it can be quiet at times. But we have about 5 minutes left, and I thought it would be really cool if we could head over to Jabulani because I think there's two monitor lizards in a tree. Oh, sweet, giving itself a good old scratch too. Now on this cam, there is a leopardess that's been showing up quite often. And I've always been telling everyone in the control room, it's Jordan at the moment, and I kept saying to her, let's check Jabulani just in case there's the leopardess shows up. She's quite easy to identify. Her name is Shadulu, and she's got a kind of a scar over her right eye, I think. It would be cool to see her. But I love to see a water monitor in the tree too. So I thought there were two. Maybe there's another. They sometimes go into the holes in the trees, particularly these old trees. Ah, there we go. There's another. Oh, what beautiful colors. Oh, and a third. There's a small one at the top there too. Sweet. This is quite a large individual on the right. That's very obvious. You can see that orangey yellow coloration and those black bands. But there's a tiny one. Well, not super tiny, but small one on the top there as well, hugging that branch. Isn't that sweet? Darkmane Lover, it was a pleasure to have you on board and all of you as well. I think this was a really, really nice live at the Waterhole. Always love to have these discussions with all of you. So many questions and comments coming through, so much variety. Oh, look at that face. Isn't that sweet? If we got to see a cheetah, we got to see an ostrich drinking, crocodile, three very sleepy water monitors. I think it suits us very well because we started off with three very sleepy hippos, and this is perfect. The three sleepy animals of a different kind, but just as cute. Anyway, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye for now.